downward dog, crane, child's pose, tortoise, warrior pose. Anyone who does yoga knows that these are some of the many yoga poses. And today, Stacey is going to tell us about yoga. She has been a yogi for a few years, which means a practitioner of yoga. And she's going to talk about this in order to fulfill the requirements for project number 2, Organize Your Speech. The objectives for project number 2 are to deliver a clear message on main points of why yoga is good for you, to use appropriate transitions between your points, and finally to have a strong opening and conclusion. The target time is 5 to 7 minutes, so timer, please show green light at 5, yellow light at 6, red light at 7. And now, let's hear Stacey tell us why yoga is good for the mind, the body, and the soul. Please welcome Stacey.
Hello, everyone. So in the spirit of Halloween, which my speech does not really touch on that theme, I'm going to try to draw that back in. So, I'll start with saying, sometimes Halloween, when you're a parent, can be a little stressful. And so, thinking of where do you take your kid, how do you dress them up, the timing of it. I have a 1-year-old, there's naps and feedings, so it adds a little bit of stress. In addition, picture this, your day starting off, your mobile phone is ringing. You look at it, it's the kids' daycare. Your migraine has been booming since you got out of bed 7 hours ago. Now your boss walks in the door, wants to speak to you about your project deadline. Feel this. Your breath becomes shallow. Your shoulders feel tense. Your eyebrows scrunched, jaws and lips are clenched. Stress and anxiety is everywhere. Is there a way out? Luckily for you and me, yes, there's yoga. Yoga is a mind-body practice that combines stretching exercises, controlled breathing, and relaxation. Yoga can help reduce stress, lower blood pressure, and improve heart function. Now let's talk about how. From my perspective and experience, yoga does 3 very important things. It rejuvenates the mind, it nourishes the body, and it heals the soul. Today, we'll talk about each of these 3 important benefits of yoga. Now, when I speak about nourishing the mind, what exactly does that mean to you? How does yoga nourish a mind? In order to understand this better, let's first consider our breathing. Breathing, as we know, is a function of our body. It gives oxygen or nourishment to our brain. Our respiratory center, located in our brainstem, sends a message to respiratory muscles telling them when to breathe. In a normal state of breathing, this signal happens automatically. It's involuntary, something you don't even have to think about doing. But breathing during yoga engages your brain because you're sending a conscious signal from your brain to produce more oxygen than you would in a normal state. Yoga breathing, if you don't know, requires greater, longer, deeper breaths. You can think of this activity kind of like an exercise for your brain, the same as any other thought-driven activity. But in addition, yoga breathing provides an increased level of oxygen supply, which in turn also improves overall brain function. Here's an example of a yoga breath for you non-yogis. So you breathe deeply through your nose and very forcefully out of your throat, engaging your diaphragm. It would be something like, okay? And that's a repetitive motion as you're going through your exercises that we'll talk about later. But the more you do that, and you'll kind of feel your brain in activity, maybe on your drive home, You'll feel a difference because of the increased oxygen flow. But if you're still not convinced, then there's more data that supports the correlation between yoga and a healthy mind. The University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign has conducted a study of 30 participants. They were asked to take tests on their working memory and inhibitory control. Research has identified these two measures of brain function associated with the ability to retain, focus, and use new information. The subjects who took a 20-minute yoga session were significantly faster and more accurate on this test than subjects who walked or jogged on a treadmill for the same amount of time. I think that's a clear example of yoga nourishing the mind. Now let's revisit our stress scenario. Our shoulders are tense, our jaws are locked, eyebrows scrunched. Let's consider the second benefit of yoga, the nourishment to the body. Would you believe it if I told you that 43% of all adults suffer adverse health effects from stress? Would you find it shocking that 75 to 90% of all doctor visits, according to the Mayo Clinic, are for stress-related ailments and complaints? Stress. It's a major role in problems such as headaches, high blood pressure, heart problems, diabetes, skin condition, asthma, arthritis, depression, anxiety, the list goes on. So what does this have to do with yoga? Yoga is the combatant to many of these stress-related ailments on the body. Yoga reduces risk factors for these chronic diseases, heart conditions, high blood pressure. Better yet, sometimes it even alleviates chronic conditions such as depression, pain, anxiety. How many of us have suffered from one of these ailments at one point in our life? I know I have. So if nothing else, yoga gives you a better overall feeling of health. And let's talk about how. So physiologically, yoga nourishes your body through the series of yoga poses. They're called asanas. Your muscles are stretched, releases lactic acid, and builds muscle use, which may cause tension, pain, stress, fatigue. Yoga uses this range of motion and lubricates your joints. Yoga not only stretches your muscles, but it also stretches the soft tissues. The outcome is just an overall sense of relaxation throughout your body. Now the third and final benefit of yoga is healing for the soul. And when I speak about the soul, I'm really talking in a spirituality context. Primarily, yoga promotes meditation, salutations, all that focus on meaningful purpose. Meaningful purpose aligns with most people's underlying spiritual mindfulness, which is the opposite of stress, the opposite of chaos. When you're stressed out, your thoughts are all over the place. You have doubt, anxiety, worry. Your spirituality may suffer because your stress is clouding the meaningful purpose for your life. It's understandable and difficult to keep focus on your true purpose in life under difficult and stressful times. So what does yoga do? It heals the soul through breathing, through meditative exercise, aimed to calm your mind and your soul. It keeps distracted thoughts at bay. You are learning to powerfully master the moment in which you create for yourself. So the next time you find yourself in the middle of chaos, try to call upon your spiritual mindfulness. Use that calm within to create the calm without. Expunge the stress, release the peace. Breathe in, breathe out.